Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking.
Welcome aboard Truly Expat Travel, where we're ditching the guidebooks, fastening our seatbelts, and diving into real stories from travellers who have traded the ordinary for the extraordinary, proving the world really is too big to be left unexplored. Cabin crew, be seated and ready for takeoff. What does it look like when a city fully reinvents itself without forgetting where it came from? The answer is Seoul. Welcome to Truly Expat Travel. And I am your host, Paula, and today I'm on my own. And I am here to talk to you about my recent trip to Seoul. Normally, I have some questions to answer or, I'm fully scripted out, but to be honest, haven't been feeling very well. So I'm just going to tell you about my last trip, which I recently went on to South Korea. We did a big trip. We went from Seoul to Busan to Jeju Island, but I'm actually just going to talk to you today about Seoul because there's so much to uncover. There is so much to get through in this episode. And here I am going to tell you how pleasantly surprised I have been about Seoul and my recent trip. Let's put it into perspective. So about 15 years ago, I lived in Seoul and it was not the easiest place to visit or to travel to or to live, to be honest. And the reasons being, people aren't going to like me saying this, that the reasons being, one, it was the language. There was no English. So if you didn't know Korean, it was actually really hard to get around. And 15 years ago, you didn't have smartphones with AI functions and Google Translate. So you really had to know the language or at least understand a little bit of it to kind of get around and to be able to read some of the signs. But that's changed, obviously. So that one aspect has made it a little bit easier. And a lot more people speak English, which really surprised me. That's number one. Number two, it was the weather. The weather for me was a bit of a struggle. So living there, I guess, is a little bit different to visiting. And I did go in winter, but you know what? I actually really had a great time. I think wearing the right clothes and doing the right things, it was one digits, like it was single digits. So it wasn't as cold as it would be if it was snowing. So for me, I was actually pleasantly surprised that I could get around. We did a lot of stuff outside, yet it was cool. Like it was easy. We just put jackets on and away we went. The third thing is there was Ubers. So we didn't have Ubers back then. It was just taxis. And a lot of the time, if you didn't speak Korean, they kicked you out of the taxi and you kind of were stranded. I did have a car back then, so that did make that a bit easier, but GPSs were all in Korean, so life was a little bit more complicated, I guess, getting around. This time around, you have Ubers, you have Google Translate. The weather, is what it is, but the other thing is that this might be a bit controversial, but people were not friendly. It was really hard. You go to places and people were not friendly. Not everyone. There was restaurants that we used to go to all the time that were lovely, but, taxi drivers, I was physically pushed out of a taxi near Namdaemun Market because I couldn't speak Korean and he couldn't understand what I was trying to say, which was the address of my home. But yeah, it was a really difficult time. But now people are friendly. So many more tourists. Before there wasn't many tourists. Now you go in places like Myeongdong and everyone, it looks like they're a tourist. So there's a lot more reasons to go there as well. And it's not just the cultural heritage, which was always something that I thought was amazing, but it was also this time around, you've got a lot of K-pop and you've got K-drama and you have skincare and you have so much more shopping malls and you've got Gangnam and you've got all these other things that are really popular now for tourists to venture to Seoul. So can I say, I could live there in a heartbeat. Strangely enough, I can't believe this is coming out of my mouth, but I could live there in a heartbeat. In fact, I'm going to go back again because it was so good. I really, really enjoyed myself. Let's get started in explaining why I loved it. What we did was we spent a few days before the tour started, and in those days we decided that we would go to the DMZ, which I hadn't never been before because the kids were too little when I was living there before. It's a must. If you're going to go to Korea, especially go to Seoul, to learn about the war history is quite important because it's a big part of their kind of history and or world history, really. And so some of the tours might be tacky, but this one that we went to was quite respectful, and I'll put that in the show notes because the tour guide was lovely. You know, she answered all the questions that anyone had. We went and had lunch. Then we went to the DMZ. We went to the tunnels. One of the tunnels was closed, so we went to the other tunnel to see the tunnel to North Korea. We also went to the main viewing point where you cannot take photos, but you can view North Korea. Then on the way back, we went to the suspension bridge. You know, to be fair, like lately, I don't know why, but I've been doing a lot of tours to do with war. And to be honest, I don't know much about war, and I didn't realize how much I didn't know about war until I started really going along and visiting these places. So yeah, I learned a lot about the North and the South history, the war history, and where they're at now and what's going on. And I found that very interesting. We also decided that we would get a lot of the shopping out of the way, we thought, until we traveled around and did more shopping. But we went to Myeongdong because the tour stops in Myeongdong. We then went to the Nanta show, which I think is one of those iconic things that you have to do when you're in Korea or in South Korea, especially in Seoul. And I used to take all my guests there when I lived there before. It's still going, and you don't need to understand Korean to be able to go to the show. It's actually quite a fun show to go to. It's funny and it's quite talented. So I enjoyed that. We went shopping in Myeongdong. There's a lot of street vendors, like food vendors there. We tried a lot of food, like street food, which was great. Then we did a lot of kind of little boutique shopping. We went into Olive Young. I'm going to explain. Olive Young is like a Sephora, I guess, of Korea, and it is full of skincare products, and it's on almost every corner. But there is a massive one in Myeongdong. There's a couple there, but there's one big 3-floor one. So before you go, if skin products are your thing, then you should probably have a look online and see what you want to get before you get there. Because most people go to somewhere like Olive Young, but then you can go to the specific, especially in Myeongdong, the specific places, the specific skincare company shops that are also there, which aren't in many other places. The other thing is chemists. Quite a few chemists sell really good products as well. So that's also an option. If you need to get there's quite a few places there for beauty treatments. So that is a must. Then Myeongdong is also a great place for shopping, like as in clothes shopping and other type of boutiques. And it's quite lively at night. There's lots to do. So that's a must. We stayed not far from there in Namdaemun. Well, I would have said it was Namdaemun, which I think is a very great place to stay because you're quite central to the palace, which is something you have to do, and especially the changing of the guards. But it's also close to the gate. I'm not sure which is east, north, west. I'm not great with directions. So it's one of the gates to the city. You also have the Namdaemun Markets, which you must do. It's a must. It's the oldest market there in Seoul, and it's got everything. When I say everything, you've got street food, lots and lots of street food. And can I say, let me see if I can pronounce this properly. And it was the first time I've tried it, but it is a Hotteok. I don't even know if I'm saying it right. It's Hotteok. It's the first time I tried it, and it's everywhere there, and it's quite famous there. It's like I'm going to say pancake it's got this hot honey inside it. It's delicious. I didn't think I'd like it, but I actually did. So it's something that you definitely have to try. There's also street food in Namdaemun that you can try as well, but also it has loads of stuff. It's got little restaurants there, street food vendors. You've also got jewelry, massive amounts of jewelry, clothes, bags, socks. It's got lots of pottery. It's got lots of souvenirs, everything that you think is in a market, times that by 5, that's Namdaemun Market. And it's a must. It's quite iconic. We stayed at what used to be in Namdaemun, but it's then changed its it's addressed to Myeongdong. So it's walking distance. So where we stayed in the Courtyard Marriott is really cool. It had, you know what it did have? I digress for a second, but it had these little robots. So if you ordered, tea or coffee or anything, they literally sent up a robot to deliver it to you to your doors, which is quite cute and is very Korean. So that is a really good place. So it's right across the road from the Namdaemun Markets. It's right next to the train station. It's about a 10-15 minute walk to Myeongdong, station main area. It is central to other areas, like I said, the palace. Then, you've got the temple a little bit further up the road. So, and Itaewon is about 15 minutes away. Isadong is probably about 15 minutes away. So it's a real central area. So I highly recommend staying that area. It doesn't have to be that hotel, but that area. The other things I would suggest that you do is that you have to go to Bukchon Hanok Village. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but it is a very traditional houses. You can stay there as well, which is very interesting. There is a few accommodation to stay there, but there are rules in place. So it is a residential area. I would go early in the morning before 1,000 people get there, and it has a beautiful feel to it. And they ask you to be quiet, but people are disrespectful, and they're not. But if you go walk around there in the morning, apparently sunrise is a beautiful time to walk around there. We didn't get a chance to walk around there at sunrise, but it would have been really nice to not have so many people around. So early morning is a better option, and it's not that far from anywhere. So, that is definitely somewhere what I would highly recommend. I also said, as I said, Myeongdong, Namdaemun Markets. Now Gangnam, I know that it's quite, I know everyone knows Gangnam now. I would go to Gangnam. I would do a day over there because you have Hongdae, which is a really great shopping area. It's kind of like a young vibe. At night, it lights up and there's lots of bars and things. But you also, in Gangnam, you have a really good, it's a huge actually, shopping mall with a very, very nice library. It's quite Instagrammable, I guess. But the shopping mall itself has got so much stuff in there, and that area is quite high. It's high end. So if you're looking for brands, that's the place to look for them. You also have this massive statue of the Gangnam, hands from the song, which is something you have to take a photo of. You just have to do that, right? The other place I would suggest you go is to Itaewon. So Itaewon is very much lots of bars and restaurants, but it's changed so much. It used to be a place where, a residential place that all, loads of expats live, but now it's got beautiful boutique stores, and it's got lots of not just high-end, but, original kind of shops there. It's got great restaurants. We went to Vatos, which is one of my favorites. It's, if you don't want Korean food, it's one of my favorites. So it's a fusion Mexican and Korean. Sorry, I don't know what's going on with my light here, where it's looking like it's like I'm going to a disco. I know you can't see that because you haven't got, if you're only listening to this, but I don't know, my light is deciding that it's flicking on and off. Let's get stuck back into talking about Itaewon. So Itaewon used to be a very big residential area, but now, like I said, it's got lots of boutiques. So you can also go to the art museum there, which has got quite a big selection of antiques. That's quite cool. Then I would also suggest to try as much Korean food as possible. I mean, not just Korean barbecue. Everyone knows Korean barbecue, and I love Korean barbecue, but try the pancakes and the tofu soup and the street food. There is so much and their version of the sushi rolls. There's so much Korean food to try. It's super healthy, kimchi will be on every plate, but kimchi is really good for your gut. So I would give it a go. There's so much to try. I'd also go to the seafood market, because in the seafood market, you can pick your seafood and then they will cook it in the restaurants. That is definitely worth trying. There's some beautiful walking paths a lot around Seoul. There's some rivers that you can walk through. There's beautiful places in better weather that you can go and picnic. But we obviously didn't get a chance to do that because we were quite limited. We only had a few days. I felt like we could have done so much more. We really could have done so much more. But because it was a tour and then we had to go off to Busan, we didn't really get a chance to do as much as that we wanted to do. I would say if you go and you go with a suitcase that's pretty much empty, because it was so much more affordable. Everything was so much cheaper, especially like products like skin products, golf gear. Golf gear was so cheap compared to, places outside of Korea. We also stayed in Gimpo at the airport, near the airport, and there's this massive premium factory outlet that was amazing. Like it was amazing. And although it's like Gimpo's so far away, you know what? That was a lovely surprise to be able to stay near the airport and find this massive, big factory outlet. We also went and did, I don't know if you know this about Korea, but you can do temple stays. So we went to the temple, and then across the road from there is the temple stay information center, and they've got a lot of free things that you can do. You can do, the day we were there, you could speak to a monk, or I don't know, it's just a conversation with a monk. I don't know what that entailed, and I don't know if the monk speaks English, so I'm not sure there. But we were also doing some sort of like stamps that was on like the rice paper that they have, which was beautiful. We also did a cooking class. We did a bibimbap cooking class, which was really, really good. I will put all of these in the show notes because I think all these places that we went to are really definitely places that I would recommend. We also went to one of these traditional Korean restaurants where you had this feast of food. Apparently, they only do that on special occasions. So there's one in Myeongdong called the Traditional Korean Restaurant, but I will put that in the show notes because that is definitely something very unique, because even inside it was very Korean. It was really lovely, actually, really, really lovely. If you're going down the alcohol route, I would suggest trying at least a little bit of soju, even though it's not my thing. Beer is big there. Wine and stuff, I guess you can get in restaurants, but they're mainly the things that people drink when they're out. Karaoke is big there. So screen golf is big there. There's so much to do in Seoul. And you know what I love? Even though it's cold, everybody's around. There's so much to do, and even at night, I think for me next time I'd go in cherry blossom season because that is beautiful. I do remember that, and autumn. Autumn for me, or fall, or wherever you're from, but for fall in Korea was pretty. You go and do all those. We used to live in Myeongdong, so all around that area is beautiful walking paths, and it's the only place in Asia that we've lived that are 4 true seasons. I know I lived in Japan and you've got 4 seasons there, but I just felt like in Korea it was 4 true seasons where you had snow in winter, and fall was beautiful. The trees were like green, not green, they were that yellow and orange and red, so it just lit up the park so beautifully. So I would highly recommend trying different seasons. There's so much to do. Although I would say that, even in winter, it's cold, but it's cheap. It's affordable. We were there when just before BTS arrived. So it was crowded. It was really busy. The streets were super, super busy. And I don't know if that's like that all the time or whether or not it's just because BTS was there. That is kind of me. That's it. I think I've kind of gone on and on about it for enough now. And I have written a few guides and I've put them on my website. So I've done an itinerary, a 5-day itinerary. I've done a what to do, the best things to do. So I've named a few of them on this episode, but I've also talked about other things to do. There is also done, if you're interested in Korea in general, I've done a few more articles on Busan and Jeju as well. I want to go back there in summer because I think in summer it would be so different and so beautiful. Just unfortunate that we still needed to wear jackets that couldn't swim in the ocean. So anyway, until next time, happy travels. I'll see you then. Thank you for joining me on the Truly Expat Travel podcast. If you liked this episode and you found it valuable, then why don't you go ahead and like and subscribe so that you don't miss an episode moving forward. I've got some amazing guests and some fantastic destinations coming up. But if this is the episode and this is the destination that you really want to go to, then I suggest you head over to trulyexpattravel.com where you'll find travel guides and deep dive into this sort of destination. If that's not what you want and you can't find an episode that is a destination you want to travel to, then head over and follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok because I'm pretty sure you'll find something there. In the meantime, safe travels, and I'll see you next week.